If you've been taught a pre-tribulation rapture, you've probably been told that the entire 7-year period is God's wrath. But that is actually not true, and I plan to prove it to you. As I've mentioned in other videos, tribulation and wrath are different. Christians can expect tribulation, but as you know, we're not appointed to God's wrath. So let's take a look at the seals and see if we can find the place where God's wrath begins. But before we do that, I want to introduce a concept called the Day of the Lord that is incredibly important for this conversation. So the Day of the Lord is talked about throughout the Old Testament and the New Testament. Pre-tribulationists say that the entire 7 years is the Day of the Lord, but I'm going to prove to you that is impossible. There is a huge sign that has to happen before the Day of the Lord begins. Joel 2:31 says, "The sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord." Matthew 24:29 says, "Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then will appear in heaven the sign of the Son of Man, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory, and he will send out his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds from one end of heaven to the other." And then we see the same thing happening at the sixth seal in the book of Revelation, chapter 6. It says, "When he opened the sixth seal, I looked and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth, the full moon became like blood, and the stars of the sky fell to the earth as the fig tree sheds its winter fruit and was shaken by a gale." And it goes on and on. So people that hold a pre-wrath rapture position see the sixth seal as the actual time of the rapture and the beginning of the day of the Lord's wrath. So that means the first 5 seals are considered tribulation but not wrath. More evidence for this is actually the 5th seal. So in the 5th seal, we actually see martyrs. It says that they cried out with a loud voice, "O sovereign Lord, holy and true, how long before you judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth?" So if you say all of the seals are God's wrath, then you're saying that God poured out his wrath on the martyrs and had them killed, which we know is not true. And here, the souls that were martyred are actually asking God when he's going to pour out his judgment. We also notice that the events of the first 4 seals are natural events. We've got wars, famines, death, pestilence. And this lines up perfectly with what Jesus says in Matthew 24 when he calls it the beginning of the birth pangs. I think I'm out of time.